caused the young man to pause. In a joyful voice, he said, "I have the privilege of participating in the building of this great cathedral. So strong, it will stand as a holy lighthouse for 1,000 years. And when I think of my mom building her cathedral at the dining room table with her toast parties and her relatives and her friends who were like relatives, I just feel that her cathedral is here."
Yay.
So, thank you.
And then we have one third and final speaker, and then after that, we hope that if anyone has anything they feel called to share, that they will. But our fourth and final one is a niece of Elizabeth, and it's Marty Lifshire.
My Aunt Betty was one of my most favorite people in this entire world. She was my father's brother's wife, and at a very young age I knew that she was something special, and that by just being in her presence, in her aura, she immediately invited me in and showered me with energy and warmth and love. It was almost like she had this magic pixie dust that immediately ignited me with all these good vibes, and I learned from her that the energy that you put out is the energy that you get back. And I could tell you numerous stories to exemplify these feelings, and that I always knew about Betty, but they were counted on this Zoom call. I love that Zoom call. And the common theme that from neighbors in Cleveland to your childhood friends to all the loved ones, including the aide who took care of her. What was her name?
Well, there were several.
At the very end, but there was someone on the call.
Zoom, was it a Yoko? Maybe?
I think so,
Yoko?
yeah, who spoke. Wasn't going to speak and then ended up choosing to speak. So, all talking about her warmth and her humor and her irreverence, which is a lot of what Angela talked about, her honesty, sometimes a little brutal. But the intention, whoever mentioned that, the intention behind it was love. So you knew where it was coming from. So I think she brought out the best of ourselves in us. And I wanted to mention people who know me right now. I have an empty nest. My kids I say they're cooked. I mean, my youngest is graduating this year, and I've kind of taken on this auntness. I've taken in wayward nieces and nephews, and I learned from the best.
I remember at Cornwall, where was my grandma and grandpa's were there. He was the chaplain for the Fresher camp in New York City, and we all went as kids and enjoyed it immensely. But I remember Betty and Howie, as a young married couple, making their bed together. I mean, it was such a tender way of putting it on either side of the bed, pulling it up in such a loving way. I said, that must be what a really happy life will be for. I mean, as a young girl, I thought that's just wonderful. And all their life they were like that. They just played against one another.
They took a bath together every night. Well, most nights.
I mean, they go to restaurants and have
And can I interject? We saw Kitty Kroll, who was the last cousin of that generation, and her recollection was she was a young woman when they had just gotten married, and she was like, "Ooh, they're so like kissy, touching each other." Like she was like, "Oh my gosh," that was her impression.
And the other thing I wanted to tell the young people here is that Betty knew at the end of her life all these old hymns and old poems, and if you could just get your kids to really learn them, memorize them, because when they're old, I hate to tell you, I can't remember what happened to me 2 minutes ago, but I can remember the old poems and the old hymns, so I just recommend you teach them because it will stay. Nothing else might work but music. When you do the act for Alzheimer's patients, they love music. They love the old songs they grew up with. Their feet start tapping. So anyway, I highly recommend you do that with your kids.
I'd like to recall something that happened at the '98 reunion in Canada when the Stuarts and the Wellses gathered for Howard's and Betty's 50th wedding anniversary, and it happened to be Lawson's and my 20th. And we were, many of you here at that gorgeous place in Canada. And on the Sunday of the weekend, we went to the pavilion, and Mary led us in a very informal, music-filled service. And Howard, a man of few words, was moved to speak. And he said, you know, a little like Angela this morning, where you said, or this afternoon, you said, you know, I'm a pastor, but even I don't know if there's a heaven. So Howard, whom we admired and loved and so on, said, I have a lot of doubt about what God is and what this is all about, meaning church. And he said, but when I'm with you, this is church. And I know that this is all that matters. And I think of Mary leading that service 40 years ago, whatever it was. And what a beautiful thing it was for my dad, who was often in Mom's kind of shadow. She was the bright light, he was the steady rock, giving us that little theological wisdom. So, and you're all invited to our house for dinner tonight. And if you need rides, let people know.
When I was little, it would be that excitement of like, oh, you know, Big Fire coming tonight, and knowing that they were going to come stay. They would come stay with us for a week at a time, every month or two, and I don't know, like, it was like the best feeling in the world. It was like Christmas or something. It's like, you know, Big Fire coming, but then even like as a grown up, like Claire and I would have a free weekend and we would drive to Cleveland just to see, you know, Big Pod, because it was just fun to be with them. And you know, and I would call, you know, people, you know, there's like, oh, call your grandma, and like, you know, but I loved calling her. It was just like fun to talk to her, and
She never stayed on the phone long.
she always wanted to. You gotta say, you know, don't want to pay too much for that long distance call.
Exactly.
Okay, that's enough. And when I was out of college, my first year out of college, I was figuring out what I was doing, and I went and lived in Cleveland for about a month with, you know, Big Pop, and just got to sort of be part of their daily routine. And you know, they would get up and they would make toast, and Big Pa would read the newspaper to Nino, and you know, they would putter around the kitchen and take naps and watch Jeopardy and the News Hour, and it was just really nice getting to be part of their life, and I just she really was one of my favorite people, and I feel lucky that I got to be so close with her for so many years.
I think we all thought we were her favorite.
Right?
We all were.
Oh, no, wait, I was.
You know, the toughness that you talked about, you know, sitting out in the cold, just reminds me of, you know, we talked a lot about how she embraced simplicity and was very content, but there's also this strength and tough side of her. And I'm reminded of a couple things. You know, one was, you know, she would often sit with me while I was practicing the piano and would hold me to a very high standard, and I recall a couple times like basically coming to tears because she was like very insistent on, you know, fixing the mistakes that I was making, and I just felt like, oh, I'm not living up to this very high standard, and I'm not sure if she could tell that my eyes were watering, but yeah, I was like, you know, trying to, you know, live up to her expectations, and then, you know, I think she did so much to take care of us, but one thing in particular was when I was about 13 and John was about 6, she and Big Pot drove the 4 of us out from Cincinnati to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is about 24 hours of total driving time. So we did it over, 4 or 5 days. And, you know, obviously there's no iPads. I don't know what they did to the car, but it seemed to be like no problem for them to just pile us in the back of the car.
Did you sing some songs?
We maybe have sang songs. I played games. I'm not sure, but I just remember loving that trip and loving to travel with them on our own. And then I guess the other like funny story that I now use on my own kids is when they're complaining about breakfast, I'll sometimes tell them, well, you know, when my grandmother used to make us pancakes, she would put all kinds of things into the pancakes, like sour milk and corn, and maybe it wasn't quite that bad, but it seemed like she was
Leftover
always
mashed potatoes.
rummaging around in the fridge, finding whatever she could, and you know, dumping it into the pancake batter and mixing it up, and dousing it with syrup, and then we just eat it up. So that's how you clean up.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, since I've laid my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah, since I've laid my burden down. No more sickness, no more sorrow, since I've laid my burden down. No more sickness, no more sorrow, since I've laid my burden down. I'm going home to live with Jesus, since I've laid my burden down. I'm going home to live with Jesus, since I've laid my burden down. Burden down, Lord, since I've laid my burden down. Burden down, Lord, since I've laid my burden down. I'm gonna shake glad hands with the angels, since I've laid my burden down. I'm gonna shake glad hands with the angels, since I've laid my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah, since I've laid my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah, since I've laid my burden down.